Okay, for this demo, I'm going to work with all of this sage in the foreground because there's a lot of sage around Taos. And when you look at it, it's just like one big mess. How do you handle that? So I chose this photo and that I took while I was down there. And so I would like to just start painting and show you how I would handle all of this. So I'm going to put that up there. And then let's look at a couple that I have done in the past. This one is using more gouache than watercolor. I've done this one a couple of times. Sometimes they turn out better and sometimes worse. And I'm going to bring this up here so you can see all the different colors, the violets and the light greens, but you can see it's rather opaque. This is transparent. This is transparent back here and back here. This is semi-transparent so that it doesn't have that heavy look. All right, so that's a gouache. This is a watercolor. And you can see all of the brush down here. There's more soil, more ground showing in this one with all of these sage plants and who knows what else is in there. But that one shows one way of looking at it with the sky and the mountain behind, or the mesa. And then I have another one which is more of an up close. Okay. Then I have this one, which kind of leaves out the sky. And I painted the cliff back there. There's some trees with a little color in them. And there's all the sagey brush in the front. And a lot of it is just paint marks, using subtly different colors, going with grays, going with greens, little violets, but you see the ground around all of this. Now in the one that I chose here, there's a little bit of ground showing. I might add a little more. No, I don't know what that is. I thought that was some of the dirt showing there, but it's not. But it might give me a suggestion to do that and maybe leave some kind of winding through the scene. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, so again, there's no sky here. It's the mountain back there. So I'm going to paint it as such, and some people will think it's the sky when they look at it. I've had that happen before where I paint this dark area back there, thinking, okay, this is the base of the mountain, and people keep talking about the sky in my painting. Well, okay. So let's start up here, and I'm going to kind of wet this a little bit into the trees. Oh, a little bit of color on there, but okay. So I'm going to pick up some cobalt blue, nice, and some ultramarine. Ooh, has some violet in it. Okay, so, okay, which is good. Okay, so I'm going to take a lot of the water out of my brush because there's water here, and pick up more paint. See how that does? That's a lot of water on that paper. If I don't want all that water, I just want it to be sort of damp, I can wipe it off a little bit. Remember, you are totally in control at all times. Okay, I'm not going to get real close to these trees just yet. Okay, so let's just bring that down. If I don't want it running in there, I push it back. Just wipe off my brush and then push it back. Okay, so let's come down in here. I want to put some autumn trees and a little green and orangey color down in my trees. Maybe more than what I have here. Okay, so that's looking kind of on the soft side. I'll pick up another brush. Hopefully it's a little cleaner. Pick up some orange and yellow. Push it up into the blue to get a soft edge. How about some orange? A little more. Okay. So I'm going to work a little more quickly here. I keep wiping off my brush. It's hard for me to show you because I have it right here in front of me, but I keep wiping it off like this. Okay, so like that. Every time I stick it in the water over there. Okay, so I'm going to bring some green. I have that pretty thick. Well, this is still wet. As a matter of fact, I want to push up into it. I push my brush up into it. And what happens is I get those soft edges. Well, it's still somewhat damp up there. Okay, so let's push this up. I'm going to just push green in here right now. I can bring some yellow and orange down in there after I do that. Okay, so, let's do over here too. See if I just take that, the blue is drying, but if I push into it, I get these soft edges. Okay, so yeah, let's throw a little orange into that green. This was earlier in the season when I took this, so I'd like it to be, there to be a little more color. So now that I have that green in there, I'm just going to push that up in there. Maybe a little right here. I don't want to get rid of all the green. I'm using compost green and green gold here. Okay, I'm going to come down around my buildings. I did not draw all of those buildings in there. You will see as I paint. So I bring this down around these little adobe buildings. I left one here. It's this one, but I brought it over closer. Okay, so we're going to bring that down in here. Maybe add a little violet to my green. Just a touch. I'm going to get this too dark. Maybe a little orange. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there. While this is wet, let's put a little over here. Let's throw some green back in there. As long as it's wet, I can keep, adding some color. Once it starts drying, I could get myself into a bit of a problem. So I want to make sure it fans out behind the house. And let's bring some of that down here. Up into the tree. And right here. Okay, so let me go back with a little green to make sure that I don't get any hard edges. So I keep track, or I try to keep track of how wet this is so that I know when to stop. Okay. So we have some trees back there. The one thing I didn't do was make my mountains, because I wanted to distinguish. So let's try that. Let's put a little violet in the blue. It won't be that much of a difference, but I'm going to bring this down close to the trees. And then I'm going to take some water. With some of that color on it. Bring it in. This I wanted to have this opening in here too. Okay, anytime I start getting a hard edge though, I'm going to pick up water. I'm going to go like this. Now, those edges aren't bad, but you know, I'd like something a little more fuzzy, a little softer. So I'll take my water and a little bit of this paint and just push it back up in there. Now remember, I'm going to be adding tree trunks and stuff there too. So there's a little difference here. I messed up by not doing it right away. Got to talking here and then forgot. So to break up those trees a little bit rather than having them just all be one big solid mass. Okay, and then I can do that. Ooh, that's wet. That's okay. All right. So now I can take and let's take a little Jaune Brilliant. Maybe put a little red color in it, a little orange. And I'm going to paint this adobe. By the way, that truck over there has now been switched to over here. Okay, and then the other one over here, it's more in shadow, but I'm just going to paint it the basic color first. Of sort of a pinkish adobe. Some fence right here. I'll take my gray of grays, just kind of throw in some grayish tone right now. We'll add a little detail to that later. And the same thing over here. Just kind of bring that gray in there. Okay, it's wet up against that, so I don't want to put the roof on yet. All right. So I never draw any of this unless if there's one prominent bush that has a certain shape, then maybe I'll draw it in. But when I have a ton of them like this, I don't bother painting, or drawing, drawing all of the bushes in. I just paint them. So I'm going to add some color for the dirt down here. I'm going to use Jaune Brilliant and a little Terra Rosa. Paint this in. I can paint over this. So it's nice to have this down, because then I can put my bushes where I want them. It's like painting, for instance, like planting a garden. You dig up the dirt, and then you put the plants down where you want them. Well, I'm going to do the same sort of thing here. I'm just going to kind of paint this in. I can be pretty cavalier about where I put it. Just throw it in there. I don't want it too light. Okay, so I'm going to throw some of this Jaune Brilliant up here lightly. And then I'm going to take my compost green, add a little violet to it. I want it grayed down. I don't want it that bright color. I want it to be sort of a violet-y color back here, but still green. So just a little bit to give it that tint of violet. Tint of violet. Okay, so I'll paint that across there, keeping it a little watery. And when I'm painting any kind of bushes, I try to paint the way they grow. Like here, see, I'm painting so that they do a little of that. I'm going to pick up some more violet. Into the green. Kind of bring it in there a little bit. And maybe right there. So this has to dry. So what you do is you just keep, if you're working outside, you just keep moving around. If you have to dry this before you put anything on it, then you move around. You go to another part of the painting, and for instance, I better use add the roof here. Or how about the little red truck? Let's get it brighter than that. So since I'm in the studio and not out there, I need to dry my painting. And now I'm going to add some more of the bushes down in front. So I use this compost green has this nice sagey color, except that it is kind of green, but then you can add a little violet to it if you want to tone it down, or use some of it just bright. This is a painting. Have fun with it. It doesn't have to be all grayed down. See, that's pretty gray there. So let's put a little there, a little there, a little there, a little there. Okay. So I think I would like to go with a little brighter. I don't have to be super realistic. So I'm going to paint these with marks that sort of go with the way things grow there. So I'm going to put this in, let it run together, see right there? If you can see that. Push it in here. I can start coming down over this. And I'm sort of looking for like where those violet parts are and where the green is to get the rhythm of the piece. Let's get a little more. I know there's no yellow green in there. It's mostly all that blue green, but that's going to get boring. I'd like to throw in a little more color. Okay, so we're going to take a light wash of this, and I'm going to brush it into the gray green right there. Kind of meet up with some of this up here. Okay, I'm going to push this up into the dark area here. To soften it. If it gets too heavy, just take some water and move it. Okay. So, I'm not, let's see, well, maybe I am. I'll take some violet. Let's take some of this lavender. Sort of a grayish lavender, because I still have green on my brush to represent what's in here. Kind of work my way down, wet against wet. Okay, so I'm going to take some more of this. Maybe a little green gold. Maybe a little violet. I mean, not violet, but gray. Mixed in with the green. More gray. Okay, come on over here. So it starts getting the feeling of, with these marks and the way it runs together, sort of a landscape of a brush. Okay, so I don't want to paint over all of this dirt down here, so I have to be thinking where I want my green and violet. I don't want to get too dark. Yeah, there's a lot of black in here, but I probably won't get that dark. Okay. All right, so let's lead up this way a little bit around some of these. The danger here is getting things that look like what I call snakes, where you just kind of have the same thing going. You have to vary that. You can't have these same lines going back and forth through this landscape here, because it just won't look good. It'll be too stilted. You want it to have a more natural look. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little soil there. We can always cover it up. Moving on down. I kind of like some of these branches down here, but we'll see if I'm not sure I'm going to choose them yet. Okay, so I'm going to add some marks that look like the way the bush is growing. And do that in here too. This is not quite to my liking, so let's change that a little bit. And at all times, I'm also thinking about what the top of the bushes look like. So your brain has to be moving around with what you're painting and making quick decisions. Okay, so I'm going to take the green again, come down in here. Yeah, I'm using a lot of this compost green, which is, you know, there's a little opaqueness to it, and on purpose, because they make it to be that way, and but it sure makes a nice sagey color. Okay. So that gives it a little movement down here with the sage. So again, this has to dry. So I can go back up here while I'm outside, and I'm going to take and put the shadowed side of this building in, which is a little Terra Rosa, Jaune Brilliant, and Violet. I'm not putting in the dark shadows just yet, just this side of this building. This one seems to be pretty much out in the light where it is over there, so I'm going to leave it. And I'm just keeping this truck simple. I mean, it's not not going to be painted with any kind of detail on it, but I get a window in here, but just enough that it, looks like somewhat like a truck. Let's give it a little more. It's kind of a strange looking truck, but okay. Now it's kind of floating there, so I can make it sit down in by just bringing some of this green up around it. Let that all blend in there. All right, so I haven't really come back and done any detail. I could add, say my trees, I want to add a little more orange over top of some of this green right here. To kind of enhance this area where the truck is and this building is. So I can do that. So anyhow, I better stop messing with those and just leave them alone. Okay. Some of the little dots and dashes that I put up there to just say fence, windows, and so forth will clean all of that up. So right now we're back to this. This outside, where you're painting outside, should be dry. It is not dry here in the studio. So all right, so let's finish off some of these bushes down here. See, some of them start having shape and form. I mean, I can now take maybe my smaller brush right now, get a little more violet and green. I like leaving these a little more a little lighter. I don't want to get black. So we are going to work with a middle value here. I'm going to start using some brushwork that looks a little like maybe some branches, but that are lighter gray. Come in around some of this, and as you can see, it's not the same as that. It's kind of like it. Maybe get a little olive green in there. things start looking too hard edged, I just come back and pull my paint back down through there. Or put some water on there and let it get a little more, get softer. So I'm just going to keep working with these mid-value colors, some violets, some greens, and make my decisions as I go along as to where I want them. Now, if I had wanted to put those in, those trunks and those gnarly branches, I would have painted them in, but I'm going to make them darker. I'm not going to bother with, the light branches right on this one. Okay. So it's starting to look like plants. I have a lot more, violet in my green. I'm looking at this for some guidance, but again, it's not going to be exactly like it, which is obvious. Okay, so I'm going to work my way up this way because I have this going on here, and I notice this nice little center area here that's dark, and then it kind of works its way up a little bit. In a line this way, but again, I don't want any snakes, so I have to be careful I don't make one big long line there. And when you're out painting, you got that sitting in front of you, so you can pick and choose what part of it you want to paint. By moving my brush around from its side to the flat side, from the narrow side, I guess, to the flat side, I can get different marks. I might even throw a little of this rosy tone with some gray. My lilac color. And you have to be strong enough to let it just look messy for a while until you kind of get those last clear marks on. Alright, so I'm going to take some transparent oxide red, maybe a little violet in it, but mostly that. Now let's just kind of add a few little. Maybe that's too wet. It's too wet. You can't control it. So I can throw in my tree trunks. Some nice big old cottonwood back here. I love cottonwoods. They're so picturesque, especially in the fall. And they spread out and have all of that gorgeous color. Okay, so not so black, but dark. I'm going to put in this fence. Which is kind of fun, and I'll put it on the other side over here too. I love those fences. They're so, it's so much character. Especially when you're painting to the landscape. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little post there and one there, and I think there's one there. And of course the roof has to be held up somehow here, so we'll put those in. And there's more of a shadow under the roof here. That becomes part of the window. Whoop. Or door. It got a little wide. Okay, so we'll put a window in here. We'll take that same color and put a shadow there. Be a little darker under the eaves. Make it a little, make it stand out a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna little grayish color. It's not dark enough, is it? Rather than black branches up here, I'm going to add some gray branches. As it gets higher in the tree. And let some of them run together. Pick up some brown and give it a little punch there. A shadow here for the truck. This roof led into this more than I wanted it to, so I'm gonna add a little more color to it. I like that better. And also I might have to live with what I did here, so I was hoping to get that shape, but I'm not going to. I'm going to make a mess if I don't let it go. Now I have to wait for it to dry before I can put another little mark there. Okay. I don't need to be making it too detailed, but I'll put another mark there on top to give it a little more definition. Okay, so now back down in here, I'm going to add all this gnarly, these branches and so forth, the way I want to put them in. So, you know, do I want some there? Do I want some there? Not getting too black with them. There's one that, as soon as I say that, I put a black mark in there. So, let's go back to the brown. So a nice mixture of the two. It's kind of nice. To give that sort of ragged, has a, you know, kind of a ragged feel, texture in the fall. Just one of the things I like about Taos. And when I do these marks, I don't just do them on where the bush is, I bring them out into where the dirt is. So it looks like, you know, there's some bits growing out there. It gives it more, it makes it more interesting. I drag this piece of dark up in here that I ended up putting in there. Okay, so just kind of bringing those textural branches through there. And when I put those in, these marks that just look like paint blobs now start reading like bushes or sage. Now I'm looking at every time I put these marks on, I'm looking at where they are before, so that I'm not just putting one here, one there, all over the place. There's really a pattern here that I'm creating. Some need to run into each other so that they're not just here and there. How about a little over here? Kind of got that dark right there, so I'm thinking maybe I need to balance it over a little bit along the bottom here. Here and here, so it's not isolated. Okay. So, you know, if they dry back too light, then go back over and make it a little darker. Okay, so as the further back we go, the smaller they are, wherever we want to put them. I think I want a little something in there before I start. My poor building. I'm gonna have to fix that. Don't want that too dark, so I scrubbed it back out. So here we go. Scribble something in here. I just keep looking at the balance of it and trying to make sure that things kind of create a rhythm. I'm getting pretty wide down there with that. I don't want to get too carried away. Alright, so let's go back up here. I need to clean this poor little house up a little bit. And it's really kind of a roof here with another one on top of it. It comes to an end right here, so I'm trying to get that feeling. Okay, so this, we'll just do that to it. It's not quite the roof I wanted, but you know, we take what we can get. Okay, so here we go, that. Another one there. I'll pull a post here. Post here. Alright, since we have fence posts and tree trunks around here, maybe this one would work better with a little mark there. Because there's things laying around up here. Give her a little red truck in there. fix the roof a little bit. You have to be brave enough to kind of just let some of this be messy and not fix everything to make it look realistic. Your viewer will look at it and see bushes and fill it in. Fill in all those places that you think don't look like bushes, and they do. They do to the person looking at it because you suggested it. Am I done? Well, probably done, as done as I should be right now. This is just a sketch. I always consider these sketches, but I do then put mats on them and frame them. Sometimes I like my sketches better than my paintings, because they're more spontaneous. Sometimes I just I try so hard that I make a mess. So anyhow, this is just get a little more. Blend that a little bit better. There. Okay. You know, what we can do is even, instead of just that being across the top there, let's take some of that. There's some posts down in here. And also some bits of branches, but I don't want to put branches in, so let's see, what can I do? Do I want... That we do that just for a little extra down in there, so it brings you forward a little bit. Sometimes I'll take these back after I paint them out. I take them back to the studio and then just, I see where it needs a little mark here, a little mark there. Maybe I went too far there. I need to lift that off there. So Okay, and a lot of times I don't add all of this these ragged marks down here of the branches, and it is, it's more of the greens and less of that. Say for instance like this one. You see, it's more of the bushes and a few marks here and there. I didn't need more than that. In this one, I felt like it needed to have that kind of feel. And so that's what this one turned out to be. So let's take the tape off. And give it a little bit of a white gleaming border. Let's see if I can get it off now. Okay. I pull it away from the painting so it doesn't tear into the painting. Okay, and then we have my painting of all of that scrub, all of that sage that grows profusely around that area. So I hope that helps you to be a little more at ease when painting it. And again, be careful of any, snaky marks where you paint the top and then you paint this line on the bottom. We want to keep a variety of movement in here.